Hi, I'm Bryce, and welcome to this session on the secret to success of core training. Joining me today is Professor of Cinesiology from Penn State University and a leading expert in muscle function, Professor Jinger Gottschall. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Bryce.
The reason we have Ginger with us today is that she has performed some groundbreaking research on the effectiveness of core exercises. Her investigations have been instrumental in the development of our CX Works program. So we thought we would find out a little bit more about her research. Okay, before we start, when we talk about the core, which muscles are we referring to?
I think the best way to talk about the core is in layers. We have a very deep layer known as the inner unit, and these muscles contract gently at low loads and therefore require very specific exercises to fire them up. So these muscles weren't tested in the study. The next layer in the abdominal region consists of internal oblique, external oblique, and rectus abdominis. Around the back, we have the strap muscles running on either side of the spine. These are called the erector spinae muscles. We were specifically interested in which of these muscles fire and how strongly they contracted with different types of exercises.
So which exercises were you interested in with your study?
Well, we were keen to investigate the difference between some of the more conventional exercises we see in abdominal training, such as crunches and oblique twists, and compare these against some of the more recent training methods, such as hovers and planks.
So how do you test exercises like these?
Well, we place EMG electrodes that measure the muscle activity on the muscles of the core, gluteal muscles, and the deltoid muscles in the shoulder. These electrodes feed information to a computer, which allows us to measure the different levels of activation with each exercise.
So how do you allow for different levels of activation between individuals? For instance, you and I would have different readings due to the difference in our size and muscle bulk.
Well, that's a good point. We started with what we call baseline measures by getting the participants to walk on a treadmill. This allowed us to express their readings as a percentage of what we see during their normal walking pattern. This allows you to compare one individual to another and group the results to get an overall picture.
Cool. So which exercises did you test?
We got readings from the traditional core exercises, such as crunches, oblique twists, and back extensions, and compared these to hover patterns, planks, and 4-point exercises using tubing for resistance.
Okay, so why those exercises in particular? What were you trying to find out?
Well, the first set of exercises are considered isolation exercises and are commonly used during core training.
What do you mean by isolation?
Isolation exercises use one or two muscles to create a relatively small movement as the two ends of the muscles pull together during a contraction. For example, a crunch isolates rectus abdominis with the two ends of the muscles shortening to pull the ribs towards the pelvis.
And how do these exercises compare to integration exercises?
Integration exercises use the same muscles, but they work in conjunction with other muscles of the core and the muscles of the arms and legs. For example, in a hover, we are loading the deltoid and gluteals to hold the limbs in place while at the same time contracting the muscles of the core to support the trunk. Most people would use a combination of these exercises when they train, but we wanted to see which ones were the best in terms of type of recruitment and the amount of effort the muscles exerted to do the exercise.
Okay, so tell us, what did you find?
Pretty cool stuff. Let's start with the crunch. You can see from this graph that the main muscle involved here is the rectus abdominis. There is very little input coming from the muscles of the back, as you can see here. When we compared this exercise to a hover and added a hand reach to increase the balance required, the rectus recruitment shoots up by another 20%, and we see a lot more input coming from the muscles of the back, meaning we are getting a more three-dimensional recruitment pattern.
Okay, so it looks like a hover with a hand reach gives us more bang for our buck than a crunch. What about some of the other trunk exercises?
Well, we actually saw the same thing in a mountain climber in the plank position. Here's the graph for the mountain climber. Again, you can see the rectus activation is much higher than the crunch, and again, we are seeing a lot more activation from the other trunk muscles.
So what about the obliques?
We looked at a side hover and measured the activation patterns against the oblique twist, as both of these exercises are targeting the external and internal obliques. We see much higher activation patterns in the side hover of around 25%, with 5 times more activation from the muscles of the lower back.
And what about exercises that target the lower back muscles?
We tested an upper back extension as the isolated exercise against the 4-point opposite arm and leg lift with resistance tubing as the integrated pattern. The 4-point exercise elicited an extra 38% of the erector spinae muscles. And look at this extra oblique activation in the 4-point exercise. These types of exercises really use all the muscles of the trunk, which actually mimic the activity we observed when the participants were walking to get their baseline measurements.
So it's safe to say that these integrated exercises deliver a functional benefit by training the muscles the way we use them day to day.
Correct. All of the integrated exercises we tested recruited the muscles in a similar way to walking. This is really what the muscles of the core are designed to do, and these integrated exercises really stress them in a way that would improve the activities of daily life.
So were you surprised with these findings?
Totally. We expected to see different recruitment patterns between the two sets of exercises, but the degree of increase in activation in the integrated exercises was pretty astounding.
So what's the takeout in terms of core training?
Integrated exercises are a great way to train, delivering both more activation and a more functional strength effect.
And CX Works?
CX Works will definitely deliver results fast. The exercises selected in this program have been scientifically proven to work.
So that really is groundbreaking. Jinger, thanks so much for coming in and telling us about your research.
You're welcome.
And to you guys at home, thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.